All right, the first part of today's lecture is on cell growth. So this should be a review for most of you, but we're going to be talking about why are most cells limited to a small size. There are some examples of large cell sizes, so I always have students go, but wait, squid nerve cells are 12 meters long, an ostrich egg cell is 150 millimeters long. What I really want you to focus on is that most eukaryotic cells, so remember eukaryotic cells are those ones with organelles and a membrane-bound nucleus, they're going to be between 10 and 50 micrometers. So not much variation between the size. Does an animal get larger because each cell increases in size or because it produces more of them? Hopefully you recall from our first unit that an elephant is not bigger than a mouse because it has bigger cells, but rather because it has more cells. So in most cases, living things grow by producing more cells. And this is due to the fact that cells are optimally sized to maximize that ratio of surface area to volume. As a cell increases in size, which increases more rapidly? Do you recall from our first unit? Is it the surface area or its volume? Hopefully you said volume. Remember that as the cell increases in size, that volume is increasing at a faster pace, which actually decreases that surface area to volume ratio the larger the cell gets. And remember, in our lab, that surface area represents the cell membrane. And if you should recall from our unit on cells and cell transport, that cell membrane is responsible for bringing things into the cell and getting things out of the cell. So if it gets too large, if the border of the cell gets too large, that membrane gets too large, the volume gets too large, that surface area can't service all of the areas within the cell as efficiently. So the most efficient was when that surface area to volume ratio was really large. Remember, the cell processes that are impacted by that increasing size, so that lower ratio of surface area to volume, would be transmission of messages and materials over long distances. This includes nerve impulses, water movement in plants, etc. Also nutrients that are needed for building new organelles or maintaining different differences of concentration differences within the cell are going to be affected. Also, getting rid of wastes becomes really difficult when that surface area to volume ratio is too low. Protein production, remember, there's going to be a DNA. DNA is controlling everything within that cell. There's going to be a problem. There's not going to be enough DNA to service all of those areas, and we'll get to this next semester, but DNA lives in the nucleus. That's why the nucleus is the control center, and it contains the blueprints, which are sent out into the cytoplasm via RNA to make proteins. And if you recall from our discussion on our macromolecules, a lot of proteins function as enzymes. And remember, those are catalysts within chemical reactions that are happening within the cell. And without those, a lot of those reactions necessary to sustain life wouldn't happen. So we have a information issue. And then if you think about trying to defend a small area versus a large area, the storage and protection of cell contents. In this case, what would happen if you filled a garbage bag with water and tried to pick it up versus a baggie of water? It would be really unwieldy and difficult to transport and maintain that without losing some of that water. And the same is true for the cell. If it gets too large, and this word that's cut off by me is cell contents. So the storage and protection of the cell contents is also impacted the larger the cell gets. So what solution does a cell have to this information issue with the DNA and all those other transport issues? Well, that brings us to our second topic of the day, cell division. You will be doing an activity shortly to learn more about this. But cell division is basically the process by which the cell divides into two new daughter cells. So we have an original cell, and then it divides. But before that happens, we need to make sure that each of those new cells is going to get a copy of the instruction manual, right? So we have to replicate that DNA, that instruction manual, before that cell can divide, so that both copies have a full set of instructions. All right, so how do they do that? Well, most of the time within a cell, if you're looking at a cell under a microscope, you're not going to see the genetic information. However, when a cell is undergoing cell division, that DNA condenses into these chromosomes, which are visible during cell division. And a chromosome is basically a single strand of DNA that's been copied, so an exact copy, and they're attached by what's known as a centromere. And these little X-like structures that are simplified in a drawing like this are known as sister chromatids. So each of these is a sister chromatid, and they're attached by that centromere. The original chromosome attached to the copy, aka the sister, is produced during replication. All right, so before a cell can divide, there's lots that needs to happen. We used to think that when a cell wasn't dividing, it wasn't doing a lot, and we used to call this interphase. We now know that there's a lot going on. This is a period of intense activity, and we can divide this into three different stages. G1 or gap 1, S or synthesis, and G2 or gap 2. And if you look, this whole process right here is known as the cell cycle. And the cell cycle is when a cell is preparing for cellular division. So to divide from its original cell into those two new daughter cells. When a cell is not preparing for division, we call that G0. So this would be like certain nerve cells or cells in your spinal cord. Also, if someone is starving or an animal is starving and the body is trying to maintain those nutrients, those resources, it's going to go into a G0 phase where it's not preparing for cell division. But we're going to focus today on this cell cycle with the G1, gap 1, synthesis, G2, and this mitotic or M phase. All right, so you're going to look this up in your notebook as you fill out that cell cycle drawing. However, I'll just do a really quick summary for you. G1, most of the growth is occurring during this phase. This is an intense period of growth. Organelles are copied during this phase, and anything that's needed for the DNA synthesis or copying of the DNA in this S phase is going to happen here. So coiling of the DNA strands on the histones is going to happen here. So it's kind of like an organization in growth phase. And then we copy the DNA during the S phase, so DNA replication. Replication is just a fancy way of saying copying. And then in the G2 phase, any other molecules necessary for the cell division are going to occur here or be copied here. Organelles that both of the new daughter cells will need will be also copied or made synthesized here. And this is also a period of growth. And then we hit the mitotic phase, and you're going to notice on your diagram it's a little different than this one in that you have all the phases of mitosis, which is the division of the nucleus. And you also have cytokinesis, which is not shown on this diagram, but is on the one that you're going to be coloring. Cytokinesis is the division of the cytoplasm. So mitosis is the division of the nucleus, and cytokinesis is the division of the cytoplasm. All right, you're going to use your textbook to complete that assignment. Good luck. If you have any questions, please let me know.